Lady Viola never really existed, but Paltrow breathes life into this fictional tale of a spirited woman who helped Shakespeare get over a bad case of writer's block. She's a young woman of privilege with a passion for acting, not unlike Gwyneth Paltrow herself, a movie star at 26.
Let's talk about the incredible year you've had. You've got a Golden Globe nomination for Best Actress. There's a lot of buzz about an Academy Award. I mean, how do you feel about all this?
I feel nervous. I feel like there's this whole whirlwind going on that I'm sort of removed from, in a way. Sometimes I step into it and I go, oh, this is crazy in here. I'm going back to my house and getting under the covers.
But instead, she's on almost every magazine cover you see. Yes, Paltrow is Hollywood's it girl, and she's been there before. After all, she was Brad Pitt's girlfriend and had a taste of celebrity no amount of hiding under the covers can shelter you from. But this time, she's not only getting attention from the paparazzi, but the critics, who marvel at her mastery of Shakespeare, delivered with a flawless English accent.
It is a new world.
The New York Times said, Janet Maslin, you make a heroine so breathtaking that she seems utterly plausible as the playwright's guiding light. That must have been really gratifying in a way. Or in a way, is it like, ooh?
Well, I didn't read them, to tell you the truth.
Do you make it a policy not to read reviews at all, or?
I have lately, but then what kept happening was people would fax them from their local paper, and my father would he was walking and be like, oh, I know you don't want to, read this, but I have to read you this one sentence. So I heard a couple of them only because my parents were in a tizzy at our house over them.
And what Mom and Dad think carries extra weight with Paltrow because they're not just her parents, but showbiz veterans. Her father, Bruce Paltrow, produced the TV series St. Elsewhere, and her mother, Blythe Danner, is an acclaimed actress on stage and in films like The Great Santini and The Prince of Tides.
What do they think of the movie?
Oh my gosh, well, they just loved it. My dad just started crying afterwards, which was...
Were you with them when they saw it?
We were all crying. At the end, they were just like, I was like, okay, let's get out of the theater. This is so embarrassing.
Your roots are here, and all your friends probably, right? Or most of your friends?
All of them.
Because she says Hollywood just wasn't her scene, Paltrow lives in New York City, where she and her younger brother were raised. She was bitten by the acting bug when most toddlers are learning their ABCs.
I grew up with the theater as very much a part of my family, a sort of character in my life. And my mother tells the story of how when she was rehearsing The Seagull up in Williamstown, when I was 3 and I had these little golden curls and I did the whole Men and Beasts speech at 3, and she said, uh-oh, this is a bad sign.
Little check off at age 3?
A little check off at age 3.
Paltrow attended Spence, an all-girls prep school in Manhattan, and thought about becoming an anthropologist. But any dream about being the next Margaret Mead evaporated when she saw her mom, Blythe Danner, on stage.
It was very seductive. It was very magical, and my mother seemed so empowered. It wasn't about focus. It wasn't about people's focus on her, but it was about this sort of light from within that she had. She was just so in her element and so full.
Paltrow wanted to follow in her footsteps. Her parents wanted her to continue her education, so she compromised, enrolling in college in Santa Barbara, but spending the summer back east at the prestigious Williamstown Theater. She had watched her mother there as a child. Now she was co-starring with her in a production of Picnic.
My father came and saw the dress rehearsal. Afterwards, he came backstage, and the first thing he said to me was, I don't think you should go back to college.
That was sort of his endorsement of your work.
Yeah, which was just everything.
As it turned out, her father's instincts were right on the money. Her career took off while she was still a teenager, when she was cast in the movie Hook. It didn't hurt that her parents were pals with the director, none other than Steven Spielberg.
And it did open some doors for you. I mean, let's face it, Steven Spielberg calls you a family friend, nice friend, to see if you're interested in playing Wendy in Hook.
Right. It definitely opened some doors, but I've got to tell you, people will say, oh, let's have her in and come read, let's see if the progeny has any of her parents' gifts. But once you're in the door, you know, they look at you much more critically than they would just the normal person coming in. And I think it's a much more uphill battle.
Nevertheless, she's been steadily climbing ever since.
Would you mind giving us a moment alone?
Of course.
A small role as an amoral drifter in the film Flesh and Bone caught the critics' attention. Some said she stole the movie.
God bless.
So how long have you lived here?
Too long.
And then, in 1995, Seven, and a romance with that famous co-star.
Your role in Seven, I guess, was when you first sort of got your taste of big success, right? In a way?
Yeah, although, well, I would, you know, I had such a small part in that movie, and when that movie came out, it was much more about my personal life at that point.
Right.
And who, because, you know, the fact that I had been dating Morgan Freeman. No, just kidding.
Now that's a story.
And the winner is Brad Pitt, 12 Monkeys.
As the world knows, it was that other guy she was involved with, Brad Pitt. Theirs was a match made in Hollywood heaven.
Especially the love of my life, my angel, Gwyneth Paltrow.
It was very surreal. I was just very young and very unready in many ways for that whole experience.
And very in love at the time.
Very, yeah. Madly. I didn't know who I was, and all of a sudden all this was going on, and I was really in love with this person, and I didn't know what it, you know, it was just so overwhelming in so many ways, and it was just too much for me, I think, you know.
What did you learn from that, if anything?
Oh, so much. That relationship I sort of point to as I learned the most from that experience, from that person. I changed so much after that whole experience, and in so many positive ways.
In this interview, Paltrow wouldn't even mention her former fiancé, Pitt, by name. But she's been quoted as saying there's nobody to blame, no other person involved in their breakup. She told us she now has a policy of refusing to talk publicly about her personal life. And that includes reports Paltrow and her latest boyfriend, actor Ben Affleck, have also split and gone their separate ways.
It's just unhealthy to talk about it. It just doesn't do you any good, and I totally understand the curiosity. I mean, you know, when I'm with girlfriends sitting around, I'm like, oh my God, who is she going out with? You know what I mean? What happened? And I'm a girl, too. I completely get it, but just for my own sake, I just don't talk about it.
Iceberg, right ahead!
Another thing she won't talk about is the roles she's reportedly turned down,
The water is freezing and there aren't enough boats.
including the lead in that little-known film called Titanic.
That would have been an interesting movie to be in, yes? Is that your kind of movie?
That's quite big for me.
Any regrets after seeing it? No?
I just caught that bloody train.
Instead, Paltrow chose Sliding Doors, which so far has grossed only about $12 million. But don't expect to see her in one of those special effects blockbusters, what she calls boys' movies. She says she intends to stick with smaller films, like Emma.
She is a gentleman's daughter.
Are you the author of the plays of William Shakespeare?
And her latest, Shakespeare in Love, where she's a leading lady in the old-fashioned sense of the word.
Let me read you something else another critic wrote. An elfin and wistful beauty, alternatively regal and childlike in her profound appreciation of newly found simple pleasures of love. Now, it sounds like another review for Shakespeare in Love, but it's actually a review of Audrey Hepburn and Roman Holiday.
Oh.
So before you get all big and puffy.
Not even my review.
It's not you, but you have been compared to Audrey Hepburn. When you hear those things, what do you think?
I think of all the people who are like, oh my God, that's ridiculous. She's nothing like Audrey Hepburn. I mean, I love Audrey Hepburn more than anything in the world.
It's flattering, though.
Oh, it's beyond flattering.
But it's not only flattery. Just as Roman Holiday launched a 24-year-old Audrey Hepburn into stardom almost a half-century ago, Shakespeare in Love could very well make this 20-something the star of her generation.
This is sort of your moment. And hopefully you'll have lots of moments. Right now, it's sort of all eyes are on you in a way.
I know, it's strange. I mean, I just wouldn't be honest if I said that it didn't feel really good to have people respond so positively to the film and to my performance.